Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm Darren McBreen. It is Friday, March 25th, 2016. Here's a quick look what's coming up.
Tonight, the political onslaught continues. Violence at rallies and strong rhetoric paint a target on the GOP frontrunner. Meanwhile, a George Soros organization takes credit for tensions in Chicago. That's next.
No way, are they really doing this right now?
Hey, will you bring me Donald Trump in here, the pinata we have? See, it's the ultimate straw man. I wouldn't want to attack Donald Trump. But, I mean, who knows if I could beat Donald Trump up? He might kick my butt. But I guarantee you I can kick this guy's butt because it's a straw man. This one's paper mache. It's a paper tiger. A real tiger, I couldn't take on a real tiger. My fellow Info Warriors, I am very excited to be able to announce to you the introduction at InfoWarsLife.com of a new way to save time and money when you stock up on InfoWars Life formulations like Survival Shield X2 and Super Male Vitality. Just go to InfoWarsLife.com today, select your favorite product, click on Auto Ship before adding to cart, and choose how often you want us to send you another order. Every time you choose Auto Ship at InfoWarsLife.com, you get 10% off and you won't have to worry about running out and having to reorder next time. And of course, you can cancel with one click anytime. As you know, I'm all about the idea of a 360 win, and the new auto ship feature at InfoWarsLife.com is a sure win for everybody. A win for liberty, a win for health, and a win when it comes to big savings. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today and save 10% on your next InfoWars Life order by selecting auto ship at checkout. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
It's no secret that one of the red-hot topics for anti-Trump activists is Donald Trump's proposal for a temporary ban on Muslim immigrants to the United States. Even though polls suggest that the majority of Americans agree with Trump on this issue, there's still been a huge backlash and public outrage from the politically correct left, who feel that Trump is discriminating against the Muslim culture. The Obama White House even went as far as saying that Trump's comments should disqualify him from becoming president. So in other words, Trump has no interest in national security or protecting Americans. He just hates Muslims, according to the radical left translation book. And it's always the same with these guys. It's always a double standard with these guys. I don't recall any trigger warnings going off back when Democrat President Jimmy Carter was in office, when basically he said the same thing during the Iran hostage crisis. Jimmy Carter prohibited immigration. He restricted visas. There was no Iranians allowed to enter the country.
And a virtual shutting off of all Iranian immigration into this country by refusing new visas to Iranian citizens. Moreover, the president warned these 4 steps may be just the beginning.
All of it. The steps I have ordered today are those that are necessary now. Other action may become necessary if these steps do not produce the prompt release of the hostages.
Well, I tell you what, sounds a lot like Trump, doesn't it? And remember how butthurt everyone got just a few months ago when Donald Trump said that the Muslim ghetto in Brussels looks like a hellhole? The media said that it was an insult to the Belgian capital, but in reality, it was a prophetic sign of things to come.
Go to Brussels. There's something going on, and it's not good. There's something bad going on. You go to Brussels. I was in Brussels a long time ago, 20 years ago. So beautiful. Everything's so beautiful. It's like living in a hellhole right now.
And that was a warning from Donald Trump earlier this year in January before the recent terrorist attacks in Brussels. And now that his prediction has come true, a lot of people that didn't necessarily agree with Trump in the past, well, they are now having to admit that he was right.
I thought Donald Trump sounded really reasonable today. My law enforcement background kicked
why do you say
in.
that? Like what?
Isn't that crazy? Because we need to be forceful. We can't have these muted responses to terror. Let me also say this about Donald Trump. You know, we trash him often here. Bottom line is, in January, and you've been saying that,
I've been
Raven.
saying that.
In January of this year, he said Brussels was a hellhole.
So he's right on a couple of things.
So his foreign policy isn't so outrageous.
Wow, there's something you don't see every day. Even the left-leaning women on the daytime TV show The View are starting to agree with Trump. Now, I want to get something straight right now. I don't necessarily agree with Trump on all of the issues. Of course not, especially his views on waterboarding, torture, and the surveillance state. I strongly disagree with Donald Trump on those issues. But I like what he's saying about Muslim immigrants and a temporary ban from letting them enter the country, just like President Jimmy Carter did during the Iran hostage crisis. Look, the Obama White House has allowed over 680,000 green cards to Muslims over the past 5 years. 680,000. While at the same time, intelligence agencies all across the board are warning us that ISIS will infiltrate the migrant population. Letting them in could very well be a Trojan horse.
It seems to be a breeding ground, but, you know, you have other places over in Europe that it's the same thing, and we're going to have it over here, too, because we're allowing thousands of people to come here, Sean, and we have no paperwork. We have no idea who they are, where they come from. They come in through the migration, the so-called migration, which could be the great Trojan horse of all time.
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me, but I tell you what, there's plenty of people out there who are angry with Donald Trump because of what he is saying right there. And we've all seen the organized protest at these Trump rallies, hashtag shut it down. So far, they've been able to cancel a Trump event in Chicago. They've blocked roads to Trump events in Arizona, and they plan to keep shutting it down. And they're going to do everything they can to prevent Trump from speaking during his presidential campaign. Like I said, they want to shut it down. This is a physical reaction by the left. They are terrified of Donald Trump because he seems strong enough and dynamic enough to take down the establishment. And that's why these anti-Trump protests are funded and organized by the likes of George Soros, MoveOn.org, and Black Lives Matter. And they are blaming Trump for inciting violence at his rallies. We've all heard them call him a racist, but I'll tell you what, the real modern day racist are groups like Black Lives Matter, the new Klan with a tan. They show up to these rallies, they're pissed off, they're intimidating Trump supporters, they're bullying people, they're shouting obscenities, flipping off the crowd, they're getting violent, firing guns in the air, they're shouting out racial slurs to anyone who attends a Trump rally. I mean, it's a mess, and you can see the hate in their eyes. And I tell you what, it's really a shame to see what Dr. Martin Luther King worked so hard for all of those years to peacefully end racism, only to have a large number of his own people turning into the very same bigots and racists that he opposed to begin with. And our crew and others, they've been right there in the trenches at these anti-Trump rallies. And here's a look at what it's like to be right in the middle of all this.
Oh, yeah. Hey, that sounds classic. You
And if you gonna have the audacity to sit up here and say you believe in Donald Trump in 2016, you are flat out racist.
On. You eat this right here. Plain and simple, this right here. Nothing else, nothing else. Black, your skin color.
But your good old white days are over with. The good old white days are over with. Ain't no more of them days, bro. It's over.
That's not racist.
No,
I'm racist, though. I'm racist. That's not racist. I'm racist.
Hell no, that's not racist. That's telling the truth.
You've never experienced oppression in your entire life. Neither have I. You're a fucking white male.
Now, to be fair, it's not just anti-Trump agitators who are out there acting like idiots. There's some Trump supporters out there who are very upset too, like this guy.
Go back to Africa! If you're an African first, go back to Africa!
You see, that ain't right. But for the most part, the violence and disruption has been pretty much one-sided. I mean, when you think about it, there's been 0 attacks by Trump supporters at Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton rallies. Trump supporters don't show up and violate their First Amendment. That's just not something they do. In fact, when you compare the two groups, pro-Trump versus anti-Trump protesters, I think this cop from Tucson describes it best.
I wasn't expecting what I saw. I had no idea that I was going to leave that event with the thought process and experience that I obtained. People were verbally violent at the door, yelling, saying, F Donald Trump. I mean, being outrageous. You were just thinking that somebody was going to lose their temper and it was going to be a full brawl. Or like somebody was going to run up on me and just punch me in the head because they're trying to prove a point about Donald Trump. That's how crazy this stuff was. I didn't feel safe sometimes. I was a little nervous. I was watching my back like, I don't know what these fools gonna do in here, man. And they were crazy. I'm very shocked. I gained a lot of respect for Donald Trump. And I think that if you want to know the truth about stuff, you got to examine. You got to physically show up.
And whether you like it or not, most people are judged by the company they keep. Domestic terrorist Bill Ayers was right there in the middle of the Trump protest in Chicago. He was posting videos on Twitter, #ShutItDown. He said it was a beautiful gathering of anti-racist youth. I guess if you think beautiful is nasty and violent. And if you're too young to know who Bill Ayers is, or if you're uneducated in the history of domestic terrorist Bill Ayers, let me introduce you to the Weather Underground.
A bomb exploded early this morning in the Pentagon, and left-wing terrorists telephoned newspapers to say they were responsible.
At midday, the Associated Press got a phone call from a man saying he was with the Weather Underground and that bombs would explode at the Departments of Interior and Agriculture and the Smithsonian before the day was out.
People calling themselves members of the Weather Underground last night planted bombs in federal office buildings in Washington and Oakland, California.
Credit for the Capitol bombing was claimed in a letter received by the Associated Press today, signed by the Weather Underground.
The explosion destroyed one of the Pentagon's 140 women's restrooms and blasted out a wall on the 4th floor.
So if you're one of those folks who likes to go to anti-Trump rallies, just remember you are aligning yourself with this guy. But Donald Trump is supported by the KKK. So what?
What does the Ku Klux Klan see in Donald Trump where they say we'll put our endorsement behind you? What does David Duke see in Donald Trump that makes them want to endorse him?
May I answer that? Maybe they see they see jobs. Maybe they see a strong economy. Maybe they see a strong military. Long as Donald Trump didn't endorse them and their principles, that's not a big sin. You are using that to incite black people, Hispanic people, and non-white people to portray him as a racist.
Now, I tell you what, Americans all across the board, we've all had enough of the race baiting and the race cards, right? And I I want to show you something. This is a reporter from Spanish television, and you got to see the reaction of these guys when this reporter accuses a white guy for being a racist because he wants to secure our borders.
Are you racist?
Am I what?
What are you think of these people now? Why? Why you stay here?
Are you racist? Am I racist?
Yeah.
No, I'm not a racist. Why do you ask that?
Well,
why is it that people who stand up for America and who want to protect our own borders, why are we always trying to be backed up with the racist thing? I'm standing here with a black man. If I was a racist, this is my brother right here. If I'm standing with him, how can I be a racist?
Are you a racist?
No.
So why would you ask him if he's a racist?
Well, let me see.
Why would you ask that question?
Why you stay here?
And you ask him because he's white and you want to get away with this racist remark. Are you a racist?
No.
So why is it that he a racist because he's standing up for the country?
Do you like the Latin people? Do you like them?
Do you like them? No. Do you like them?
Yeah, I
like America?
People.
Do you like America?
Yeah.
Then what's the problem? You should be out here picking it with us. That's a dumb question to ask. You're asking that question so you can use it on your program to make him look like a racist. Why don't you ask me am I racist? Because I'm black, right? I love America too, and I think these illegal aliens need to be shipped back to their country. So why is that racist? You're a racist for asking him that question.
Thank you, Jesse.
And you're only doing it because he's white, and that's what you're going to show on your report tonight. You shouldn't play that kind of game. That's a dumb question.
Shame on you.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Yes.
You're in America taking advantage of all the benefits that America has to offer, and your only comment, are you a racist? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's how you fight back right there. Unite. Remember, the establishment, they do not want us united. They want us divided. And that's why they are going after Donald Trump, because he is a direct threat to the establishment, Democrats and Republicans. Now, we're about to wrap this segment up, but I want to show you a clip right now. This is a clip from the hit TV series on Showtime. It's called The Circus. And here we have an inside look at what actually happens during some of these meetings by the power elite. This is a dinner conversation between power brokers and lobbyists who are openly conspiring to end Donald Trump's presidential campaign. This is powerful stuff.
I'm sorry, this is not the Soviet Union. We can't call a meeting and decide Trump is out.
And we hate that.
Yeah. Republicans are hierarchical, respectful of authority. We fall in line. And Trump has interrupted that cycle. All he has going for him is a lot of votes.
Now that, my friends, is a table full of GOP fundraisers. You also sitting there, you've got members of PNAC, you've got members of the CFR, basically the same guys who covertly support Hillary Clinton. And these guys are a bunch of arrogant elitists who are there to shut Trump down, and they are no different than George Soros. And that's because Trump is, well, obviously he's being attacked from both sides. And this is truly historic. We're talking about one man standing up against the establishment of both political parties and the political correctness in the national media.
And now they're faced with a very real prospect of Donald Trump becoming the leader of the party, and it absolutely drives them crazy. They just cannot imagine sharing. Well, because he's an outsider. He's not them. He's not part of the club. He's uncontrollable. He hasn't been through the initiation rites. He didn't belong to the secret society.
Please take a moment to listen to what I'm about to break down very, very carefully, because the information I'm about to lay out in just 2 minutes changed my life and changed the life of many, many people around me. I was a big sports enthusiast, but loved to eat like a pig when I was 10 years old up to about 22 or so. And I ran 6 miles every other day and lifted weights almost every day and had a great physique. Then I got into radio and television 21 years ago and got so busy in my work, I stopped working out. And everything was okay for 4 or 5 years, but then suddenly I started putting on pounds every month. And in the next 10 years, I gained almost 100 100 pounds. Then about 7 years ago, I began jogging, swimming long distances, and lifting weights again, trying to lose weight, and was only able to lose about 20 of the 98 pounds. I even changed my diet. I even increased the exercise. It didn't work. But as soon as I began to get the nutrients and compounds that I needed, my whole life changed. I've gone from 280 pounds down to about 220 pounds or so. It is incredible. And in just the last 3 years, Super Male Vitality, developed by Dr. Group for InfoWarsLife.com exclusively, and products like the Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine have just done incredible things for my body. I work out less. Even though I'm older, I've lost more weight. My muscles got stronger, my stamina, my libido, and so much more. The truth is, we went out to bring you the very best we could, true game-changing products. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today and secure your Super Male or Female Vitality and X2 True Nascent Iodine today, and hopefully start your journey towards living a more natural, focused, clean life. There's a lot of other excellent nutraceuticals we've developed, and also third-party ones that we sell at InfoWarsLife.com that are excellent. But the two game changers that I believe if you order them are most likely to really give you the biggest bang for your buck are Super Male Vitality and Female Vitality, and of course, X2 Nascent Iodine. Take the challenge, visit InfoWarsLife.com today, and secure your nutraceuticals. At the same time, know that you're funding the fight for freedom worldwide. Thank you for your support. Clean, pure drinking water. You can't survive without it. But where do you get it? Alexa Pure Pro is a brand new, groundbreaking, gravity-fed water filtration system that is like no other. The Alexa Pure Pro transforms water from virtually any fresh source into clean, healthy drinking water, pairing the unprecedented superfiltration power of an all-new gravity block core with a hybrid chromatic shell. It removes up to 99.999% of impurities, including bacteria, viruses, fluoride, disinfectants, volatile organic contaminants, and hormones. Filter capacity up to 5,000 gallons. Stainless steel construction, easy assembly, low maintenance. Replacement filters are simple to install. And now, as part of an exclusive limited time introductory offer, you can save $20 off the retail price and get free shipping. This is a limited time offer, so order your unit today and receive free shipping and $20 off. Go to InfoWarsStore.com or call 888-253-3139.
Police brutality. How are we going there?
So it's a race issue? That's it? Race is the only issue we have in this country?
Nah, but right now it's kind of a big thing, bro.
Goddamn big issue.
Yeah.
It's making it worse.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, because he's unifying black and white people.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Brown people. He wants to deport. Yes, he wants to deport Mexicans. He wants to make Muslims wear identification.
So he wants to follow the law,
and he doesn't want ISIS infiltrators who have said they will come in with Syrian refugees. He wants to vet those people. That sounds crazy to me. Nobody's Hitler. Sounds like Hitler.
ISIS is right here in America.
No doubt about it.
ISIS is right here in America.
Okay, so what are we doing about it?
If you watch the news, you'll see who our ISIS is. We can't start with this.
What are we doing about ISIS?
We can't start with this.
What are we doing about ISIS?
This is not where the start is.
What are we doing about ISIS? ISIS is not
First of all, we have to
as what we all do to each other in America. Yes, look at all the so then you didn't support the Iraqi war? No, I didn't. Neither did Donald Trump.
And that was a look at some of the recent clashes between Trump supporters and anti-Trump agitators. And it's also a sign of things to come because spring is in the air. A coalition of far-left protest groups are planning a mass civil disobedience movement next month. They are calling it the democracy spring. Oh, doesn't that sound nice? Leanne McAdoo is to join us now. She's joining us now. Going to tell us a little bit about what's planned for next month. I guess these anti-Trump protests are not going to end anytime soon.
No, well, we were saying that it was going to be the summer of rage last summer. It looks like that's going to be happening this year. So they're touting this as the largest protest of the century. More than 3,000 people have already pledged to get arrested in these protests.
Does George Soros have anything to do with this?
Of course he does.
Okay.
We'll get to that in a minute. So these are going to be, this is going to be about a 10-day walk, actually. They're going to be starting at the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, and then they plan to march across the East Coast and initiate a sit-in in Washington, D.C. starting April 11th. So, you know, I'm all for activism and, of course, cleaning up D.C. I don't disagree with this group that there are corrupt politicians that need to get the heck out of there. So, you know, it starts with a good thing. But this is the same group that was filled with all those radical elements that were shutting down the Trump rally, saying,
so it's a mixed message. That's right. So they say they're there because, like, for example, at the anti-Trump rallies, they were there because they say Trump incites violence.
Right.
And yet they have domestic terrorist Bill Ayers who's there on their side. So, you know, you could judge your character by the company you keep. And there's domestic terrorist Bill Ayers there at the Trump rally protest in Chicago. So more of the same here?
He only bombed a few federal buildings.
Right.
I mean, he helped launch President Barack Obama's candidacy. So he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Supposed to know about
so
that.
What do these radicals claim to want? Well, despite the fact that many of the main groups that are endorsing the Democracy Spring are funded by billionaire George Soros, the group complains that American elections are dominated by billionaires and big money interests who can spend unlimited sums of money on political campaigns to protect their special interests at the general expense. And again, this is true. I do not disagree with what these people are saying, but you've got to follow the money. Why is George Soros funding this type of a movement? What does he gain out of it? Obviously, we know he's put a lot of money into trying to ensure that the Democrats win this time around. But I mean, look at the Arab Spring. He was there as well.
Yep.
And he sort of finds where there's the civil unrest in a lot of these nations and gets them to do the dirty work so that they overthrow their political scumbags, and then he brings in their replacement. So they're left
and what he's good at is he's really like the master agent provocateur, if you will, the billionaire agent provocateur, because his intent is to divide the nation, racially divide the nation. Remember, folks, they want us divided. They don't want us united. And that's why all this racial tension is going on. And it is funded by billionaires like George Soros, MoveOn.org, Black Lives Matter, and now the Democracy Spring.
Right. Well, and it's like you have to almost visualize them up in their ivory tower. And every few generations, the plebes, they get very upset and they start getting in these groups and coalescing and saying, you know what, we've got to storm that tower and take those guys out and get rid of them. And the elite are up there going, they're organizing. We've got to divide them.
And aren't they focusing as usual on young people? This is targeted at the college groups and the like. So because these are young people that are appearing.
Because they do want to take the people who see the injustice in the world and who are rightly offended by the injustice that they're seeing and who want to change the structures
and want
that
free
they
college.
feel oppressed by. And they want free college. And you know what? I'll give it to them. We sure do waste a lot of taxpayer dollars on plenty of other stuff. So I get where they're coming from. They're just, you know, they don't really know about economics. But someone showed this to me on Twitter, sent this to me on Twitter today, and I just couldn't believe it. So there's an ebook, which this is just so frustrating that this is even out here, but it's called Black Flags from Rome. And it's put out there by ISIS or ISIS supporters. And it's basically this whole book about how you will attack Rome and Allah will make you conquer it. And it talks about how Europe is returning to the Dark Ages and how does this mix of chaos lead to the conquest of Rome, which of course is the capital of Europe in today's language. So it says, read the Black Flags from Rome to find out how. And so this whole book is basically breaking down how they're going to go ahead and conquer Europe through this chaos that we've been talking about has been being orchestrated in order to destroy Europe and destroy it. So they're taking advantage of that. Well, check out one of the chapters in this ebook, how non-Muslims will ally with the jihadists to help take down Europe. And so it says, a growing population of left-wing activists People who are against human animal abuses, Zionism, and austerity measures, they look up to Muslims as a force who are strong enough to fight against the injustices of the world. It seems from the article below that many of these people will ally with the Muslims to fight against the neo-Nazis and rich politicians. They will give intelligence, share weapons, and do undercover work for the Muslims to pave the way for the conquest of Rome. How will this happen? If you've ever been at a pro-Palestine, anti-Israel protest, you will see many activists who are not even Muslims who are supportive of what Muslims are calling for. It is most likely here that connections between Muslims and left-wing activists will be made, and a portion from them will realize that the protests aren't effective and that armed combat is the alternative. So they will start to work together in small cells of groups to fight and sabotage against the financial elite. So they're basically spelling it out how they're going to infiltrate these left-wing activist groups who are upset with the Israeli occupation.
They're talking about a violent overthrow.
Absolutely. They're saying that eventually, and we've seen it happening at these anti-Trump rallies, these kids are getting riled up. The kid there was someone on video shooting his gun in the air saying, no, dump Trump or whatever. I mean, they're going to take it to that violent next level. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's...
No, they're very angry, and you could see it there. I mean, and folks, we've been there. Our crew's been there in the trenches, in the middle of all that stuff, and they are saying that it's the Trump supporters who are violent. It's the majority of it's the other way around. All right, these people are very, very angry, and now this group is basically saying that there's violence to look forward to in the future.
Right, and well, we've seen how these sort of political uprisings from students, especially, I mean, Bill Ayers, perfect example with the Weather Underground. Yep. These were students who were upset with everything, and so they start making these makeshift bombs and blowing up federal buildings, and Bill Ayers always says, well, we didn't kill anyone, but I mean, still, it's like these radical student groups that they get infiltrated. And it's people like George Soros, even back then, it was the CIA, they were getting into these student groups all around the globe and getting them to do their dirty work. And it's the same thing happening here, and now it's not just George Soros, it's freaking ISIS.
Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So not only are these far-left organizations aligning themselves with the likes of George Soros, MoveOn.org, even Bill Ayers, but they are also expanding their operations to include terror organizations like ISIS, and they plan a violent takeover. And it's nothing new. I mean, it reminds me of how U.S. intelligence gave Afghan children violent books to indoctrinate them to radical jihad. And guess what? It worked. And now these far-left organizations want to create a terrorist breeding ground right here in the United States. Hey, we're going to take a quick break right now. The Infowars Nightly News will return right after this. Stick around.
Thousands of years ago, there was a basic form of chivalry. Our ancestors would hear the drums of war, giving the warriors of the tribe a chance to organize and prepare a defense. 60 years ago, when foreign air forces were approaching filled with bombs, they had drums of their own, air raid sirens. But in the 21st century, there are silent weapons for quiet war, pathogens added to the food and water, and to the lining of plastics that destroy our vitality, turn off our hormones, and accelerate our journey towards death. I personally counter this onslaught with Anthroplex. Anthroplex is designed with known organic concentrated herbs to create the basic foundation to normal metabolic activity inside the human body. Discover why Anthroplex is turning so many heads today. It's time for us to take our bodies back into our own hands, and it starts at InfoWarsLife.com with Anthroplex. My fellow InfoWarriors, I am very excited to be able to announce to you the introduction at InfoWarsLife.com of a new way to save time and money when you stock up on InfoWars Life formulations like Survival Shield X2 and Super Male Vitality. Just go to InfoWarsLife.com today, select your favorite product, click on Auto Ship before adding to cart, and choose how often you want us to send you another order. Every time you choose Auto Ship at InfoWarsLife.com, you get 10% off, and you won't have to worry about running running out and having to reorder next time. And of course, you can cancel with one click anytime. As you know, I'm all about the idea of a 360 win, and the new auto ship feature at InfoWarsLife.com is a sure win for everybody. A win for liberty, a win for health, and a win when it comes to big savings. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today and save 10% on your next InfoWars Life order by selecting auto ship at checkout. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Your liver can be full of fatty deposits, built-up toxins, and even dangerous objects known as liver stones. We worked with the top developers in the field of detox to take tried and true herbs and other compounds known to safely cleanse the liver and fused it with the latest research and technological development on concentrating these ingredients to give you the maximum effect. Liver Shield is the only liver support product on the market that uses a patented Spigyrex blend of powerful organic herbs that support detoxification. And when you visit InfoWarsLife.com, see the instructional video on how to do a 6-day liver detox. This isn't a game, and let me tell you, the results are dramatic. Liver Shield is totally organic and made of the safest high-quality herbs. Liver Shield is the only liver support product on the market that uses a patented Spigyrex blend of powerful organic herbs that support detoxification. And when you visit InfoWarsLife.com, see the instructional video on how to do a 6-day liver detox. This isn't a game, and let me tell you, the results are dramatic. Liver Shield is totally organic and made of the safest high-quality herbs. But that said, you need to consult your physician before you do the full detox. Liver Shield can also be used daily by itself for overall upkeep of the liver. Secure your Liver Shield today exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com for the lowest price available. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
It's Good Friday, and in Europe that means a strict traditional observance of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Unless, of course, you are a radical Muslim refugee taught that the crucifixion basically never happened, or at the very least, its meaning is completely different than the Christian understanding. Nevertheless, Spisa reports, Pope Francis washed and kissed the feet of 12 young asylum seekers to show the international community the importance of providing refugees shelter, said an official in the Vatican. Pope Francis has repeatedly asked Europe to open its doors to refugees, and at the Palm Sunday Mass, he asked the world not to turn its back on people in need. And as Good Friday is observed, Belgian police hunt down more suspects in the recent Brussels bombing. Meanwhile, Europe, shell-shocked by the attacks in Paris and Brussels, succumbs to the will of their radicalized foreign invaders, where Stockholm Syndrome is literally exploding. As the Gateway Pundit reports, Swedish women are showing their support for Islam by taking selfies in hijabs after the Brussels bombings, wrongly accusing Swedish men for attacks on Muslim women, while Swedish women are raped in record numbers by refugees and Muslim women are treated worse than any feminist could ever comprehend by a third world misogynistic society they are supposedly fleeing from. It's an inconceivable situation, a clockwork orange, if you will. A radical Islamic horde has been given the golden ticket by NWO puppets to carve out an Islamic caliphate from London to Rome to Brussels. Express UK reports evil ISIS have trained 400 fighters to target Europe in a deadly wave of attacks. The terror group has apparently deployed interlocking terror cells like the ones that struck in Brussels and Paris, with chilling orders to choose the time, place, and method for maximum carnage. Is it any wonder why the far-right's numbers in Europe are skyrocketing, as average Europeans, out of sheer desperation, are rushing by any means necessary to defend their nation, safety, children, religion, and their very lives? The Daily Mail reports, Voorpost, a Belgian white power organization that is being closely monitored by security services, says its membership has rocketed following the carnage in Brussels. Voorpost leader Bart van Pachtenbeke said, "For a small country, that is massive. Our support has increased by 25%. People are realizing that everything we have been saying was right." He added, "Our government are world champions of looking away and pretending there isn't a problem. They are cowards and people are fed up with it. What will it take to mobilize real action, liberated from the New World Order's control of the soft invasion? Will it take nuclear terrorism?" As the UN's IAEA chief, Yukiya Amano, warned, member states need to have sustained interest in strengthening nuclear security, Amano said. The countries which do not recognize the danger of nuclear terrorism is the biggest problem. Amano's comments came before a summit of around 50 leaders in Washington on ensuring that nuclear material in the world's roughly 1,000 atomic facilities are secured. The Brussels bombers may have been very close to infiltrating one of Belgium's nuclear power plants. As Sputnik International reveals, the Bakraoui brothers had been monitoring the home of the director of the Belgian nuclear research program for months. But the arrest of parachuter Salah Abdeslam hastened the terror network to downgrade their plans and launch the attack in Brussels, Belgium, killing 31 and wounding dozens. John Bound for Infowars.com.
We are going, they want everybody cynical and dumb and laughing and everything. That's all the sitcoms, all the cartoons, all the dramas, all the movies are about arrested development, be a fool, be an idiot, only talk about sports. If you're a nice guy, if you're a trendy, you go to brainwashing meetings about what language to use and how to behave and how to act, not because you're stupid, but because you are entering the upper class of controllers as an inner party member to learn how to suppress your fellow humans. That's what they teach at colleges. Go to the higher PhD levels. It's all nanotech and chimeras and brainwashing and TV flicker rates in the psychology department. You go over to the public policy department, and it's talks with Gruber and others of how to lie and how dumb people are and how you prey on them. And you go to the next department, and it's just all anti-human evil. Most of the professors at UT, I've been in there and I've looked at them and I've talked to them. They see me and they just give me this hateful, mad scientist recluse look. And you've heard some of them on air. They're like, "You'll never stop us." I mean, they are villains. They are the Legion of Doom. They're coming for us. They're here. They're allied with every evil organization you can imagine in their unified hate of God, in their unified hate of the individual. And I swear on the altar of God, I will resist them until the end. And I pray to God to unleash the spirit of liberty on the... You look at the eyes and the behavior of the communist Chinese leaders. They are the most evil people I have ever seen. They drip with satanic energy. And then you look at their little goblin creature, their little mentally retarded... hermit kingdom, hereditary royal dictatorship that's communist. And they're now entering the phase. We wear crowns. We're above the law. We live in giant armored compounds and have jet copters and jumbo jets and sex slaves. And you work out in the fields 18 hours a day or in a factory for Apple. And if you complain, we take you and we blow your head off. Or if we need organs, we take you and put you like a chicken at a factory farm and wait till somebody with your blood type and your genetic type, they got it down to that now, not just blood type, needs those, quote, fresh organs. And all these trendies that aren't in on this think that they're going to be safe and good in this new utopia because they're part of it. Let's put the meme up on screen before I play this Obama clip. Obama, there's little difference between communism and capitalism. Just take what works best from both. That's right. It works best in communism to have all these giant slave factories and force everybody off their land, poor peasants, whether it's Ukraine or Poland or Russia. They show up to your tiny farm, 20, 30 acres on average. Same thing in China. And you're living in a little mud hut, but you love it because your families lived there 10 generations. and you're super happy, and little kids got a little stick pole catching fish for dinner, and they're all happy. And in march the troops, and they just grab your kids, never see them again. They go this way. We'll take your women, rape those every time. And then just grab the men and go, what's your skills? We're taking you 1,000 miles to the south. You're going to work in a factory. You're going to work in a commune farm. And there's just big, fat communists just eating food, everybody else starving to death. And they'll say, just take a few out and shoot them. That's the essence of the Red Terror. Teach them that their life is nothing. You now live in the heaven. Enjoy it. And then, after they've broken everyone for decades, then they bring factories and say, we're going to have a little bit of economic work with the South Koreans or with the Russians or with the Americans or whoever, talking about China. And they're bringing a factory in, so only the best are going to get to go and work hard and do good, and you'll move up. Then they use those few success stories to get everybody else to behave and line up to work in the factories and get trained, and then suddenly you get nothing. But it's okay because the communists say they love the people, and Apple, the most abusive factory controllers, they're liberal too. They wear little gray suits and act feminine, and that's all camouflage. Oh, hi, you want to see the new Apple stuff we're coming out with? We're real liberal. Behind the scenes, savage AI takeover. Apple funding the launch of space bases. When is the Mars mission ready? I mean, they're just, move forward. I want life extension now. I got to go out and give a speech to these animals. I'm telling you, I've been around high-powered people. You think I act aggressive and high-powered? This is exactly what it's like in the real world with powerful men. You're just never supposed to really see what men actually act like. The globalists sit around and they operate in the darkness, in a cloak of liberal. Oh, we love you. Oh, we're going to help you. Come closer to the mist. Come to the light, little babies, like a giant anglerfish. Well, I've been over to their side. I've seen it. I've studied it. I've looked at it. And let me tell you, pure death is waiting. Brain force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of brain force.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're gonna crash, you're gonna feel really bad afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. For example, the L-theanine inside of it, that is activated by the different compounds in the yerba mate that we put inside of it as well. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a car will run on one form of junkie gas, but it runs really good on what it's designed for. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Introducing Secret 12, the new Infowars Life vitamin B12 formulation. Most forms of vitamin B12 are highly processed and synthetic and could not be properly absorbed by the body. That's why for real results, so many are having to turn to painful B12 injections, which are known to have higher absorption rates. Now, InfoWarsLife.com is excited to announce that we can bring you our most bioactive, powerful form of B12 that has been developed with our exclusive perfected process. Secret 12 is a binary of nutramedical grade, bioavailable coenzyme forms of B12, methylcobalamin, the same kind used in B12 injections, and adenosylcobalamin. Secret 12 is simply taken by mouth, right on the tongue, and then swallowed. No needles, no injections. Don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. Discover the secret. Secret 12. Secure your revolutionary Secret 12 formula right now at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
David Knight for Infowars.com. What you're looking at here is a statue in memory of Major Joseph Winston. He was the leader of the North Carolina troops, the militia. They were the part of the Continental Army that did not flee. They held their grounds and they fought the Hessians as well as Tarleton's cavalry. And of course, the Hessians were the German mercenary soldiers. Tarleton, you'll remember from Mel Gibson's movie The Patriot. Not exactly historically accurate the way they portrayed Tarleton. I don't believe he ever pinned people in a church and burned it to the ground, but he was not a great guy nevertheless. But of course, this was the leader of the militia, the North Carolina troops who stood their grounds like Stonewall Jackson would later do in the Civil War. Now, the reason we're here is to talk about a Pyrrhic victory. And take a look at this beautiful park here. It's a very large park in Guilford County. This is the Battle of Guilford County Courthouse here. And you see this tree-lined road that's behind me. It's a beautiful park commemorating a Pyrrhic victory. What is a Pyrrhic victory? Well, the original Pyrrhic victory was by the Greek general Pyrrhus, who fought the Roman troops. He won the battle, but he lost so many troops, he said another victory against the Romans will ruin this army. And that's essentially what happened to the British here at the Guilford County Courthouse battle. The troops were led on the American side by Nathaniel Greene, on the British side by Cornwallis. And although Cornwallis got the victory, he had so many casualties that he had to leave the area and head toward Virginia to try to link up with Benedict Arnold. Nathaniel Greene, on the other hand, went south, where Cornwallis had had so many victories. He went into South Carolina, into Georgia, and he undid the victories that had taken place down there by Cornwallis. Meanwhile, Cornwallis was trapped at Yorktown, and that was the end of the Revolutionary War. So here we are at the site of a Pyrrhic battle, a turning point in the Revolutionary War. And why are we here? It's because of the current events today that we saw in the election. We see the article that was on the Drudge Report, I believe it was in the Washington Post, where they were talking about Louisiana, a state that was won by Donald Trump, and he got the majority of the delegates, but now, through maneuvering and backdoor means, Ted Cruz has now gotten the majority of the delegates in Louisiana. Now, those delegates will still be bound to Donald Trump on the first round of votes, but if he doesn't get the magical majority of 50% plus one vote, that 1,237 number, then on the second round, those delegates will put Ted Cruz in. And I have to say, it will be the ultimate Pyrrhic victory for Ted Cruz, for the GOP establishment that he represents. And I believe he has always represented. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But understand that what he's talking about, what Ted Cruz and the Republican establishment are talking about, is stealing the election not from Donald Trump, but from the American voters. Millions of people's votes will be thrown away by the loyally Machiavellian actions of people like Ted Cruz and the GOP establishment, like Jeb Bush and Karl Rove. They are conspiring to throw your votes in the trash, just the same as if they came into the precinct and ripped up your ballot boxes. And if that doesn't create a revolution, nothing will. That's why I say it'll be a Pyrrhic victory. There's absolutely no way that Ted Cruz can win. He needed in the mid 80%, in the low 80% before this last election on Tuesday. Now he needs 85% of the remaining votes, but he needed in the low 80s of all the delegates in Tuesday's election. All he got was 40% of the delegates. So every week he's getting farther and farther behind. Donald Trump, on the other hand, needed in about 55% is what he needs now. He needed maybe about 56, 57% before. He got 60% of the delegates. So each week we've seen Donald Trump get or exceed what he needs to get to that 1,237 number. We hope that that is what happens. Meanwhile, Ted Cruz and the GOP establishment is falling further behind each week, and their only hope of victory is to steal it from the American voters. Today we have the news about that came out of the National Enquirer, and a lot of people dismiss it, saying it's the National Enquirer. To me, this kind of news has even more credibility. Of course, we have seen politicians like Gary Hart, like John Edwards from here in North Carolina, who was living in a post-Bill Clinton world, and yet his illicit affair destroyed him. In the Democrat Party, with Ted Cruz and his wife, we have people who have said, as Heidi Cruz said, we, Ted and I, are the face of God to the American people. Our campaign is. Really? I think you are the face of hypocrisy to the American people. You know, I'm not judging what he does in his life. I mean, certainly I don't know what he's done, even relative to Donald Trump. We don't have a floating standard here. We don't grade on a curve. But regardless, it's a different thing when you pretend to be something that you're not. And Ted Cruz now appears to have gone full on Elmer Gantry with these allegations of 5 affairs that are there. And again, remember the track record of the National Enquirer. They took down Gary Hart. They took down John Edwards. They took down Jesse Jackson and his love child relationship that was there. Tiger Woods was destroyed by this. And of course, they had also revealed an affair with Bob Dole. They have a very accurate track record when it comes to this kind of reporting. They are very careful. They know what the libel laws are. They released this information just days after Gawker was essentially destroyed by a judgment, $150 million plus judgment about this Hulk Hogan case. They're not going to put this stuff out if they don't have the evidence. The only hope that Ted Cruz has is that the mainstream media is not going to report it. We're going to report it. Social media is going to report it. He's done. And I want to add one other thing that I think is very interesting in terms of the Machiavellian maneuvers of Ted Cruz and the GOP establishment. I believe this hasn't just started in the last couple of months, in the last couple of weeks, as they've seen him as their only hope and they're caught between a rock and a hard place is the way they want to put it. No, I believe this has been going on for a long time. Back in June, I believe it was before, I haven't looked up the date, I should have looked to see when Donald Trump entered the race. I believe it was even before Donald Trump entered the race. Ted Cruz was a major factor in the race. He already had multiple super PACs that had been funded to the tune of millions of dollars. One of those super PACs in June spent $536,000. 500 of the $536,000, $500,000, $500,000 was given to a Carly Fiorina. The Carly Fiorina, it was either her campaign or the super PAC. I forget which one it was. And everybody was talking about this at the end of September when they filed their quarterly reports. The FEC said, we want a letter of explanation. Why would a super PAC supporting Ted Cruz give $500,000 to Carly Fiorina, his competitor? Good question. Was it hush money? Was it part of building up her campaign? Because this is an orchestrated front with multiple heads set up to take down any possible outside infiltration, whether it was going to be Rand Paul or whether it was going to be some other unforeseen candidate, or perhaps they'd already had Donald Trump in their sights. Nevertheless, I believe this is another indication that the establishment had many hidden heads that they were pulling together, that these people were colluding together even before this happened. We'll see what happens. We've not heard any more, even though this was a major story that was covered by all the mainstream media, the Washington Post, New York Times, CBS News. Everyone was covering this strange $500,000 transfer from a Ted Cruz super PAC to Carly Fiorina. Nobody has followed through after 6 months as to what the FEC has done. So it's not clear whether that's been resolved or not. Nevertheless, that plus the eligibility issues, plus now this character issue for somebody who has put himself out as the glitterbug preacher, the face of God to America. What Ted and Heidi Cruz are looking like right now are the Jim and Tammy Faye Baker of the GOP, another pair from North Carolina. And reporting from North Carolina, I'm David Knight for Infowars.com.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for tonight's broadcast. The Infowars Nightly News will return, Lord willing, next Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Hey, this is your opportunity this weekend to take some of your friends and family to church. Tell them why we celebrate Easter Sunday. That's going to do it for tonight. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. All right, we're going to cut this segment short because I understand we have an urgent phone call right now from Admiral Akbar of the Rebel Alliance. Admiral, thanks for joining us. You know, we were just talking about the internet kill switch, and Barack Obama, you know, he just said that he thinks we should hand power of the internet over to the federal government. Like, that sounds like a scary thought. And Obama says it will be used fairly and distributed equally. What do you say to that?
It's a trap.
What happened? Did we lose him?
Knockout is back. If you want a product that has 10 known ingredients that naturally get your body to relax, your brain to relax, so you get deep, restful sleep, Knockout's it. Infowarslife.com. L-theanine, hops flower extract, lemon balm extract, valerian root extract, chamomile flower extract, L-tryptophan extract, melatonin, and more. All organic, all the natural sources. It's the same price as leading brands of melatonin that are 3 milligrams a piece. It has 3 milligrams, the standard recommended dose for an adult, and it just synergistically puts everything in there. Infowarslife.com. That's Infowarslife.com, or call 888-253-3139.
You are watching the Infowars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. And your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.